Hey everyone, welcome back to the Absolute Sound Show. This is going to be episode 5, and today I'm joined again with my colleague Anand from Home Theater. Today we're going to be discussing the final installment of this series on home theater, and we're going to be going through Anand's projects, or at least just a few examples of the projects Anand has done for some of our clients. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Let's check it out. Okay, so I have another one. This is going to be setup number 2. It's looking pretty modern, and this I believe is Sonus Faber, and this is the one I'm talking about. So tell me a little bit about this particular setup.
So again, young couple, knows his stuff pretty well, has been playing with stereo plus home theater system, and
So a bit more experience than your usual.
oh, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So it was good, because at least when you're engaging with a person, when you're talking, and when you tell him, okay, let's do maybe a 5.1, or let's do an Atmos setup, or should we go for bookshelves or satellite? At least he understands those terms, So here I would say he came up, showing the renderings of the place. That means he has already pre-decided, this is the look he's going for, and he's not willing to change much of the feature wall, which is the front area. So again, it's HDB, but the space is pretty large. It's pretty open, and he wanted to replicate a nice cinematic experience, but the wife was looking for something which is petite. All right, so the challenging part was, how do you bring out the best of music as well as movies by using tiny speakers, and at the same time which blends in well with the decor? Because if you look at the image, what we have is a beautiful feature wall. It's a floor-rising ambient light rejection screen, which is what we call ALR. So at the same time, we are using an ultra short throw projector, if you look carefully in the image. So we decided to go for Sonus Faber. The series is called Lumina, so I decided to go for the bookshelf speakers, the bigger ones, because there's a 1 and there's a 2.
Yeah.
Why bigger one? Bearing in mind, when you're playing your movies and music, bigger always helps versus the smaller one. Now, you want to keep the same tonality, so we followed with the center speaker, which is called the C1, from the same family. And if you're doing, a nice big projector screen theater in your living space, you want to have a nice Atmos sound. So we went for 0.4. So there are 4 Inceiling speakers placed according to the space, because the customer actually already had his existing speakers which he wanted to use for surround. So those are mounted on stands, and what I loved about the entire setup is the sub. So he has one kick-ass subwoofer which is chucked in the corner. To some it might even look like a nice, small bar fridge.
It's the size of a mini fridge.
It's the size of a mini fridge, but that basically brings out the best of the low frequencies. So here, because the rendering was already done, but the renovation had not started. So the first approach is, when you go on site, how do you do your cable management? So we decided, okay, why not we hide the cables for the surround speakers underneath the floor? So before you run your flooring, we decided, okay, let's make the conduit, put the speaker cables for the surround speakers inside the conduit. Because I've come across certain places where people have put the speaker cable and they've plastered over it. Literally, like the cable is there and you're just putting a cement.
But you can only really do that like once, right?
Imagine in a scenario where, let's say the cable became faulty or the cable was short. You can't pull or you can't replace. So here, if you do put a conduit, you have a channel to run your cables through in future if you want to replace to a better cable or something. At least you know that you're future.
So that's something I guess that Anand does with the interior designer. Project planning is always important, and making sure that you start early enough that he can speak to your interior designer so that he can think of all these things that maybe your interior designer might not necessarily have thought of.
At the same time, because you want to have a nice cinematic experience, where should you have your PowerPoints? He's using an ultra short projector. You want to be playing content, which is nowadays things like Netflix, Apple TV, Amazon Prime, and so on, and you're streaming. So it's always good to have a data point, because a physical connection is always superior versus Wi-Fi connection, even though your router could be close enough to your equipment. So use LAN cables. So we planned for that as well. At the same time, where should the couch be placed? Because it's a nice screen. You don't want to be in the front row of a theater and get fatigue. So based on the projector screen, which is a floor rising, the couch should be placed at a certain distance. Where should the overhead speakers be placed? So all that was done beforehand, and the end result, I would say, is a smile on customer's face, and the place looks really pretty. So yes, one can have a good sound by using smaller speakers, but the clue here is you need to have a big subwoofer which looks like
A mini fridge.
a mini fridge or even bigger.
There we go. Okay. So would you say there was any unique challenge in using the existing equipment that this client had already, or was it something that you were already quite used to before?
Okay, so my past experience in this industry of almost being in 30 years now, having to visit different places, be it condos, be it studio apartments, be it HDB, hotels, restaurants. So, you get a rough idea of the space. You also get a rough idea of the materials used, because if you're using a marble, that's reflection. If you're using wood, it reflects different, if you're having a parquet or a carpet. So experience helps in this manner.
Okay.
So in terms of challenges, I would say, frankly speaking, none.
Because you've seen it all, basically.
I've seen it all. Yeah, you could say that. Lastly, because he had already told me that he wanted to use back his existing speakers. So the purpose was, to understand, should we use them for front or should we use them for surround? So here, why not we use a new speaker for the fronts, the center, and the Atmos to maintain the same tonality. But the surround speakers currently used is of a different brand, which maybe later on, if a customer likes, he can always upgrade to the smaller ones from the same family, the Lumina ones, so that you're maintaining the same tone all around as much as possible. But coming to home theaters, if somebody asks me, can I have a mix and match? I would say avoid. The only mix and match or something different which you want to have is a sub, because that's a low frequency. One can always go for a different brand to complement the bass.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. All right. So that is setup number 2.